Good evening, Rishabh. Sound is okay? I'm audible? All right. So in last class, we have discussed about the establishment of the RBI. It was established in 1935, and the reason for the establishment of the RBI because government, British India government was not able to manage the currency in India properly. Right? They are not able to manage currency in India properly. And what happened? The value of British pound is decreased comparatively with what? Indian rupee. So in comparison of Indian rupee, the value of British pound was consistently decreasing in the second decade of 20th century. And despite many efforts, British India government was not able to manage that exchange rate, right? And apart from that, they are not also able to manage the government debt, right? You know that these years means from 1918 to 1939, these are the interwar year, the year between two world wars, right? So from 1930 means 1925 onwards, it was almost like situation was arise ki another war is inevitable. So government in the Europe, they want to spend more and more to build up their defense and all, and they need support from the colonies. And British India government, they are not able to manage their own debt itself, right? So not able to manage the own debt of the government, not able to manage the currency properly. For all these purpose, they want to create a separate organization, and RBI was established by Reserve Bank of India in 1935. Okay, and with that act of 1935, it was created, but it was created as a private organization. It was a private organization having the reserve of 550 crores, right? So that is why the name, the prefix was Reserve Bank of India. But in 1947, when India got the freedom, so government and RBI management was adamant in that thing, yes, the role of this organization is to provide the economic development, means whatever things are necessary for economic development, and that can be supported by the central bank, that is RBI, that must be provided by whom? Central bank. So for that purpose, government want to put RBI in the domain of the government, like they want to nationalize. But RBI people have their apprehension. What their apprehension have, ki RBI's autonomy may be compromised. So they just want to make sure that the government is not going to compromise with their autonomy. I told you the first Indian governor, C.D. Deshmukh, have played an important role to maintain the RBI's autonomy. Right. So this is what we have discussed in the last class. Right. So RBI is established, and RBI was having the power of what? RBI was established, and RBI, when it was established, RBI was assigned to manage money supply and currency management. Sometimes students feel that these are the two same thing, currency management and money supply management. No, currency management means what denomination, where, and how much number of these notes are required, right? So how much number of notes, or which denomination is required, the 500 rupees denomination is required or not, and to what extent the 500 rupee note should be there in the economy. All these things comes under what? Currency management. It's printing and its circulation, and whatever the counterfeiting currencies, avoid the counterfeiting currencies, जिसको नकली नोट बोलते हैं, counterfeiting currencies, and at the same time you have to make sure that all the security features should be maintained. So this is related to what? This is related to currency management. Whereas when we talk about the money supply, how much money should be in the economy, right? How much money should be in the economy? It is a concern with respect to what? Money supply. So money supply is concerned with what? Money supply is concerned with how much money should be there. And if we have decided that, okay, the X amount of money is required in the economy. Now this X amount of money, how much should be there in the 500 notes, 100 rupees notes, 50 rupees notes, coins, all these things are managed under what? Currency management. So RBI was assigned with what? RBI was assigned with money supply management, currency management and forex management. These three things were given to whom? These three things were given to RBI. Okay. And we discussed this thing about what? Imperial Bank. Imperial Bank of India. Right? Which was formed in 1921. So I told you in the last class that when the Imperial Bank of India was created, they have given the task of what? They have given the task of Imperial Bank of India got the task of government debt management, means all the borrowings of the government and what the interest rate, all these things is going to be managed by whom? Imperial Bank. Imperial Bank is going to manage these things, right? When it was formed in 1921. Plus regulation of banking system, right? So regulation of the banking system was with whom? Imperial Bank, and managing government debt. These two are the main responsibility of Imperial Bank when it was formed in the year 1921. Fine. But when the RBI was created in 1935, when the RBI was created in the year 1935, this role of the Imperial Bank was managing what? Government debt. But when RBI was created, this function was transferred to whom? This function was transferred to whom? RBI. But still, the regulation of banking system, in India was remain with whom? Was remain with Imperial Bank, right? So, despite RBI as a central bank, I am talking about year 1947 when India got the freedom, right? So, in the year of 1947, when India got the freedom, there was two main institutions in terms of what? Managing the Indian financial system. It was RBI as well as another was Imperial Bank of India. So in the year 1947, RBI was as a central bank managing the currency management, right? Money supply and government debt and foreign currency management. These four tasks are assigned with whom? RBI. But still, the regulation of banking system is with whom? Imperial Bank of India. Right. So what government want? In 1947, when India got the freedom, government want that all important financial institutions in India, they must work hand in hand with government in order to make sure that India should go for proper growth rate, right? So for that purpose, they approach actually both. They approach to RBI, they approach to Imperial Bank of India, both. And see, RBI was formed in 1935, and at the time of RBI's formation, the Indians also were part of the decision making, right? In 1935, Indians were also part of the decision making. But when the Imperial Bank of India 1921, it was formed in 1921, but it was having origin in 1806 with Bank of Calcutta, then Bank of Bengal, then Bank of Bombay and Bank of Madras, and all these banks were established by whom? They were established by British East India Company. So this Imperial Bank was having more colonial mindset in comparison to what? RBI. So when in 1947 government started negotiation with both, we want to nationalize both of you. So RBI didn't say no, ki we are not interested. They didn't say this thing. What they said, ki yes, okay, you want nationalization, I understand your purpose, but in the case of nationalization, we are going to lose our autonomy and it is not good for a central bank's functioning. So if you are going to make sure that the central bank is going to remain autonomous, we are not going to oppose this idea of RBI's nationalization. Whereas this Imperial Bank, they outrightly rejected the idea of what? They outrightly rejected the idea of nationalization of Imperial Bank. And at that point of time, right to property was a absolute right. Indian Constitution was implemented finally on 26th of January 1950, but it came to existence from November 1949 itself. Right, and even before that, right to property was absolute in the nature. So government do not have this power to forcefully acquire Imperial Bank. They do not have the power to forcefully acquire. So they are trying to negotiate with the Imperial Bank, but Imperial Bank outrightly said that we are not interested. We are not interested in nationalization of Imperial Bank. Right. So conflict started between whom? Conflict started between Imperial Bank and Government of India of that point of time. So, to teach a proper lesson to Imperial Bank of India, what government did, they look over the power of the Imperial Bank. So, government know that the Imperial Bank is basically a commercial bank, but apart from being a commercial bank, they also have a power to regulate the Indian banking system. Right. So, this is why what government did, government passed Banking Regulation Act. Government passed Banking Regulation Act 1949. So government passed Banking Regulation Act 1949, and with this act they transfer all those powers which was held by Imperial Bank of India. They transfer all this power to whom? RBI. The power to regulate banking system they transfer to whom? RBI. So before this act, RBI was having the power to manage the money supply. RBI was having the power to currency management. RBI was having the power to forex management, right? Government debt management. And with this Banking Regulation Act, RBI also got the power to manage whom? Banking system in India. So technically now Imperial Bank, which was means like this in the power, in terms of power to regulate and other things, it was next to whom? It was next to RBI. But now by this act, Imperial Bank of India was just a what? Just a commercial bank, and all other powers which was held by the Imperial Bank, that was transferred to whom? RBI. So in this way, over the years, if you will see, RBI accumulated the power through various acts and other things. I'll explain you also other things like payment system and other things, how RBI accumulated that power, right? But this was one of the significant act, and RBI draw a lot of power from this act. So whenever it is about the management of any banking, right, and like from prompt corrective action, whatever RBI is doing with respect to bank, they draw the power from which act? Banking Regulation Act. So Banking Regulation Act has transferred the power from the Imperial Bank to whom? RBI. So in this way, by 1949, RBI was nationalized and RBI was having complete control over Indian financial system. So whatever the financial system we do have at that point of time, that was under complete control of RBI. Clear? This point is clear? Yes, their complete syllabus will be covered. Okay, so this point is clear. Now we are going to completely transfer our focus on RBI. Means how this organization work, what are the main function of this organization, right? So let's briefly discuss the structure of the Reserve Bank of India. Right. So Reserve Bank of India is like what? It's a headquarter of RBI. Then there are four local boards of RBI, and then there are multiple branches under these local boards, right? So in this way they have structure, right? So this is the structural of presentation of Reserve Bank of India. This is the headquarter HQ, and then there are local boards, LB, local boards, then there are branches in the different part of India, right? So in this way the structure of this organization is there, right? Though if you want, you can get more detailed thing from the Reserve Bank of India's website, but I don't think it is required, right? So you need not to go there. That is more than sufficient. The headquarter, then four local boards, and these four local boards are at four metropolitan cities of India, that is Mumbai, right, Delhi, Kolkata and Chennai. So these are the four local boards, fine, and they present their own area, right? So in that particular area, whatever the branches are there, they report to local board, and local board directly report to whom? Headquarters. So in this way they do their administrative work, right? Zone wise, north, south, east, west, north, south, these are the four local zones. Fine. Acha. So now from the zone, let's focus on the headquarter. Headquarter, I told you in the last class, it was established at the time of establishment, it was at Kolkata, but in 1937, it was permanently shifted to where? It was permanently shifted to Mumbai, right? So that is a kind of a dream of mine ki at some point of time in my life later on, maybe some of you who are going to hold the topmost position, and I am going to visit Mumbai and you are going to welcome me there, right? So it is a kind of a dream. Actually, I started my teaching career back in 2012-13, and since then I started teaching by that year. So I taught the students who are preparing for the proper banking exam and Delhi police exam, SSC exam. So a lot of students are in the different job, right? And now presently teaching to RBI students and civil services aspirant. So I'm glad to just want to share with you that I was having almost in every branch of the government, I was having what? Students who are posted there, right? So sometimes when you will go to the airport, you will find that some of your students, they are as a sub-inspector and they are there, right? You go to the bank, you will find some of your students, they are the probationary officer. Now I can proudly say that some of the students, they are as a officer in RBI, right? They are civil servant, they are IRS, right? So for teacher, the biggest motivation is what? I can be anything, right? If I want to become an RBI officer, through you I can become an RBI officer. If I want to become an IRS, I can become an IRS because of you. So teacher is nothing, just a reflection of the students' success as well as failure. If you fail, that means I fail, right? So I always try, I should not allow you to fail. And that is why sometimes it's said that your best teacher is your last mistake, right? So I hope with this kind of enthusiasm, you are going to appear in the next year's RBI exam and you are also going to be get selected, right? I hope you are going to maintain this tempo, right? Chalo. So thoda sa emotional ho gaya. Let's back to the topic. So in 1937, the headquarter of the Reserve Bank of India was transferred from where? It was transferred from Kolkata to Mumbai. Fine. Since then, its headquarters is remained there, and even in the future, there is no chance of changing the headquarters because it's a very nice place and properly located. Each and everything is fine. Maybe building can be shifted from here and there, but it is in financial capital. And because of the RBI and all the business activity, like all prominent activity, that gives the Mumbai as a status of what? Financial capital of India, right? Achha. So now when we see the structural of headquarter, right? Structural system of headquarter, then there is a system of what? Then there is board of directors, then governor, then deputy governors. Then there is a long list which is actually not required at this stage, but before appearing in the interview, I'll request you should go to the hierarchical structure of the Reserve Bank of India. But as of for the phase 1 and phase 2, there is no need to go that structure down to the bottom. कि RBI Grade B कहाँ पर आता है? Where is RBI Grade B? Right? So not required, but okay. If you are curious, you can go and see the structure. But here, it is sufficient. Board of Directors, Governor, and Deputy Governor. And actually, Board of Directors, right? The Board of Directors of the RBI, they have a system of 1 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 10, right? So this is, so here 1 is what? Here 1 is Governor of RBI, 4 are Deputy Governors of RBI, these 4 are Head of Local Board, Head of Local Board, these are officials. These are officials of GOI. Government of India's official, basically from Ministry of Finance. They are from Ministry of Finance. So they are officials. Fine. And these 10 members are nominated by government. Government will nominate 10 members. So 10 members are nominated from the different field. Maybe somebody is from what? Finance domain. Those who are having a very good expertise in the financial market, like how the financial market is working or money market is working. Some people have a very good expertise in the agriculture sector. Some people have expertise in the steel or IT sector. So in this way, different sectors, they are being appointed by the government of India as a board of directors. So 10 people can be nominated. So with the full strength, this board is going to have total 21 members, right? Okay, so this is the structure of what? This is the structure of Reserve Bank of India's topmost hierarchy. So here, I just want to make you clear one thing. The board of directors, they do not supervise day-to-day functioning of the Reserve Bank of India. The day-to-day functioning of Reserve Bank of India is headed by governor with the help of deputy governor and other officials in the hierarchy of the Reserve Bank of India. For example, here there are, after the deputy governor, there are executive directors, right? Executive directors, not enforcement directorate, very popular word now these days. So these are the executive directors, right? So RBI has divided the entire organization in the various sections and departments, and these sections and departments, they are headed by general manager. Over them there is an executive director, and executive director is going to report to deputy governor, and deputy governors are going to report to RBI governor. So day-to-day functioning of the Reserve Bank of India is under the supervision of whom? Governor of RBI. But when RBI is going to take a decision which is going to be what? Which is going to impact in the bigger manner the entire economy or functioning of a particular organization, then that kind of decision making is going to be discussed with whom? Board of directors also. Fine. Otherwise, the RBI governor is going to look over. So till what level can a RBI Grade B officer reach. See, from here you can go to the general manager, even you can reach here also. You can reach here because being a governor, there is no set criteria. Government has not given a set criteria that this is the criteria to become an RBI governor. Right. So for example, you have started your journey as an RBI Grade B officer. Right. Meanwhile, you have joined a post-graduation. If you already have a post-graduation, then again you have suppose that you have joined your post-graduation in the economics. Right. You did your economics PG, and then you have went for the MPhil and PhD in that particular subject in the particular area, and from there you went for a research work and other things with your job, right? With your job. So with that kind of the thing, you are definitely going to switch, right? And for you, the biggest motivation, the present governor of RBI, the present governor of RBI is having the degree in the history. He is not from the economics, though he worked for the long duration with the Ministry of Finance, but actually he is not a banker or having a degree in what? Economics, right? So for this one, similarly for the deputy governors also, right? So technically you can go to any post, but for that you have to do a lot of work. Like Raghuram Govindarajan. So if you will see the Raghuram Govindarajan, he is BTech from IIT Delhi. Then he went for MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and then he went to US, right? Booth School of Economics. He studied there and he started teaching there in the Booth School of Economics, right? While working in the Booth School of Economics in 2006, he wrote a book, and that book have exactly predicted the financial crisis which came in 2007. So he became in the limelight, and with that thing, he was approached by the IMF and he became the director in the IMF, right? And then he became the chief economist of the IMF. And at that point of time, Chidambaram, who was also from Tamil Nadu, he is also from Tamil Nadu. That is not a connection, but that kind of government of India approached him, right? Government of India approached him, and they want governor, means they want Raghuram Govindarajan to work with the government of India once his assignment is about to over with IMF, right? Then he joined the government of India in a capacity of chief economic advisor to the government of India, and he penned down this economic survey twice. Then when the governor post became vacant, he became the governor of RBI. So if you will see RBI governor, there are two kinds of the people who are coming from the bureaucracy, like Shakti Kanta Das, right? He was a history graduate, then he went where? For the civil services. He cracked the civil services, got the top rank, and he joined the Ministry of Finance in his later career, and for a long time he worked in the Ministry of Finance with an illustrious career. He did a lot of things under the Ministry of Finance, and with his impressive performance, government appointed him the governor of RBI, right? So technically in the hierarchy, you can go to till the post of general manager to up to the executive director. Beyond that, it is your skill, pure skill, how you are able to see. Sometimes skill, like people think that if I am a skillful person, what it means that I know things in the better manner in comparison to other. So people think that this is the skill. No, it is not a skill. A skill is like what you know, and you are effectively able to inform the decision makers ki I am having this skill. So how the other people, those who are working in the Ministry of Finance, right, along with the Shakti Kanta Das, they didn't become what? They didn't become the RBI governor, but he became the RBI governor. How? Maybe some other people, they are better, having the better ability than the present governor of RBI when they are working in Ministry of Finance. But whatever you are doing, you are able to make sure that whatever work you are performing, right, that go to whom? The decision makers. So they will immediately get this point. So sometimes people say that they become because they are doing the buttering and all. No, it's not like that. If you are a skillful person, so skill is not just related to what your technical skill. It is also a skillful thing. Whatever the expertise you have, you are effectively and able to inform others. You are possessing that skill, right? So in this way, these things happen. Okay. Now come back to the point. So this is how the structure of the board is there, and board do not do the day-to-day supervision of the central bank's functioning, it is under whom? It is under whom? It is under the governor, right? Now, let's move towards what? Let's move towards functions of RBI. Functions of RBI. What RBI performs? Everybody knows that the most important function is what? Monetary policy function. Monetary policy function. But in order to understand the monetary policy function, some basic information like what is inflation, how it impacts the money supply in the economy, what is the impact of interest rate in the economy, how they impact the interest rate. So these three things are as a prerequisite to understand the monetary policy function. So first we are not going to discuss first as a monetary policy function. First we will understand the basic functions of RBI, then we will go to what? The monetary policy function of Reserve Bank of India. And like the first thing under the functions of RBI functions as a banker's bank. Banker's bank, right? So what bank do? Bank accept deposit for lending. They accept the deposit for the purpose of what? For the purpose of lending. Fine. So they accept the deposit for the purpose of lending. So when bank want to deposit their money or they want to lend the money, then for them, who is going to perform this role? RBI is going to perform this role. So banks can do the transaction of depositing as well as what? As well as lending. They can do it from what? They can do it from Reserve Bank of India, and you know that the liquidity adjustment facility LAF or repo and reverse repo system is there. So when banks want to borrow from RBI, they use the repo facility, and when they deposit their money or RBI is going to lend from these banks, then the facility of reverse repo is there, right? So Reserve Bank of India functions as a banker's bank, okay? Means whatever the banks are doing with the people performing this lending and depositing business, the same business they can do with whom? They can do with the central bank, that is RBI, banker's bank, right? Acha, one more thing here. Suppose in case if RBI is not available at that point where bank want to do the transaction under the system of what? Banker's bank. Suppose that there is a bank A and they want to transact a business with RBI under the system of what? Under the system of banker's bank. But because of some reason, maybe X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, whatever the reason, RBI is not available there. Whatever the reason, just RBI is not available to do the transaction with bank A. Then in that case, on the behalf of RBI, State Bank of India can perform this function with that bank. So banker's bank is a primarily function of Reserve Bank of India. But in case Reserve Bank of India is not available there to perform or execute that function of banker's bank, then on the behalf of RBI, who can perform this role? It is State Bank of India. Then the curious guy is the student, sir, if suppose RBI is also not available, RBI is not available, then there is the SBI. Suppose, sir, if SBI is also not available, and if SBI is not available, then any PSB who is available, they can perform this bankers bank function. Then, sir, even if the PSB is not there, then there is no A is there, right? Because in any part of the India, if the SBI is not there, any PSB is not there, then there is no possibility of any other bank, like other things. So this is why this is much enough. Like bankers bank function is performed by the RBI. If RBI is not there, then SBI. If SBI is not there, then this function is going to be performed by whom? Any public sector bank. Basically, under the bankers bank function, what RBI do? RBI provide the facility of lending and depositing to whom? Commercial banks, right? That is why it is known as bankers bank. Okay, any doubt? Sir, I had a question in the last class, how our currency bagged. जैसे पहले Manisha, hold करो. I will come to that point. We will discuss that point. Don't worry. अभी उसको hold करके रखो. पूरा explain करूँगा. I'm going to explain that point. Don't worry. Right. As per government securities, like government bond. No, not necessarily the government bond. Like SDF. Under the SDF facility, bonds are not required. Right, under the SDF facility, bonds are not required. So you can't say that every time bond is required. It's not necessary. Sir, as per the performance of Shri Tarun Bajaj, sir, can we say something about his next assignment to RBI? No. Shaktikanta Das is going to have another full term. He is going to. This is what this government is actually. If they will find someone who is very efficient, so there is very less possibility they are going to replace. Right? Until unless that person is going to be inefficient by his own actions, they generally do not replace. Right? So if you are performing well, then they'll give you the chance. They will not replace you. They are not like that. He is performing. Let's still search other who are able to perform better than him. It's not the way they are working. The present government, they do not work in that way. If they find someone and that person is working properly, then they are going to have this person till then he is start non-performing. See the Ajit Doval, see the Jaishankar, right? Shaktikanta Das, right? So Mr. Bajaj was doing very well in his domain, right? So whatever he is having such kind of thing, maybe government is going to give some other role, right? But as of right now, I don't think there is a possibility of changing of the present RBI governor. He is definitely going to have, I think 2-year term he already extended. His term is extended by 2 years. So another year, that means he is going to get complete full term. Sir, what could be the reason for RBI to not provide lending and depositing function? See, RBI, I think you are asking in the context of commercial banking, because RBI do perform this action with the banks, lending and depositing kind of the thing. They do provide this facility to whom? They do provide this facility to commercial banks. But why RBI do perform this thing? That is again related to what? That is again related to money supply. In order to manage money supply in the economy, right, RBI sometimes have to increase the money supply, RBI sometimes have to decrease the money supply, right? So RBI have to increase and decrease the money supply. And RBI is not a commercial bank, RBI is a central bank, so RBI generally do not directly transact with the public for the commercial banking. Fine. So commercial bank, they interact with the public. So it is like that what? This is our economic system, right? And in this economic system, RBI is there in the capacity of what? RBI is there in the capacity of central bank. Then there are the commercial banks and public. So public transact with whom? Commercial banks. Fine. And commercial banks are going to provide the lending and deposit facility. Suppose at some point of time RBI want to increase the money supply, or at some point of time RBI want to decrease the money supply. So in order to increase the money supply, RBI can provide the lending facility to commercial bank at low interest rate. Fine. So bank will see that low interest rate money is available from the RBI. Let's borrow the money from the RBI because it's available at low interest rate. So in that way, RBI is going to increase the money supply. When RBI have to decrease the money supply, rather than just doing what? Decreasing the interest rate on borrowing, RBI will increase the interest rate on the borrowing and will also increase the interest rate on what? Deposit. So most of the bank who want to borrow the money from RBI, they will restrain themselves, and whatever they do have, they will deposit where? RBI. So this bankers bank function is actually related to what? Monetary policy function. Because RBI is not a commercial bank, so they do not transact with the public. So RBI cannot directly intervene in the public domain to increase or decrease the money supply. RBI perform this thing through whom? Commercial bank. And for that purpose, they must transact with the commercial bank, and that is why there is a system of bankers bank. Manisha sir, please do tell about the consolidated sinking fund. Does RBI maintain it? Arre, why you are jumping like a frog and kangaroo? Don't do this thing. Let me clear this thing. I do not teach in this way. My way of teaching is what? I just want a smooth ride. I do not want to jump from here and there. Right? I will go step by step. Right? I'll go to that sinking fund and we have to miss this thing. So remain focused in the class. Step by step, each and everything is going to come. Consolidated sinking fund is related to what? State governments. Right? When RBI is going to perform the role of what? Bank to the government, state government and central government. There we are going to discuss that sinking fund and other things. Right? As of right now, you need not to worry about that thing. Okay? So whatever I am teaching, focus on that. If you have any doubt, let me know. If you already know these things, then just have a wait. Whenever this topic is going to come, then join that class. There are maybe some students who already know these things. Fine. So those who know this thing and they feel that it is not required for me. So you can skip that session, join that session where I am going to discuss that thing. I'll ask Ashokdi ki whatever the topic I am discussing, just mention in the video's hashtag so that you can directly go to that video and watch that part. But please don't jump. I do not appreciate the way means jumping from here and there. Right? So do this thing. Focus on the current lecture only. Very good. If you have any doubt with the current lecture, then you can change this one. Otherwise, keep quiet, understand, and if you have any doubt, ask me. So in this way, they do perform what? They do perform the function of what? Bankers bank. Fine. Acha. One more thing which is associated more with the bankers bank is other function, that is lender of the last resort. They do perform the function of lender of the last resort. Right? So they are the lender of last resort. Lender of the last resort means in a financial system of a country. Right? In a financial system of a country, there are multiple organizations like central bank, commercial banks, cooperative banks, non-banking financial companies. So there are multiple instruments, right? So basically it's a public institution and central bank in a financial system. Like in other words, public, right? Public, then institutions or intermediaries like bank, share market, financial institution, non-banking financial institutions. They are what? They are mediators. Public mediators, and third is regulatory bodies, right? Regulatory bodies like RBI, SEBI, IRDA, PFRDA, Ministry of Finance. So they are regulators. So these are the three basic instruments in the system, right? So when a financial system is having a kind of crisis in terms of what? They are not getting the money, right, in order to transact their business. They are trying from here and there, and still they are not able to get the money or liquidity, right? They are not able to get that money. So ultimately, if you are not able to get the money from here and there, then ultimately who is going to provide that liquidity? It is going to be provided by whom? It is going to be provided by the Reserve Bank of India. Like in 2007-8, when there was a financial crisis in US, and that financial crisis also impact Indian market, and Indian market, especially the mutual fund market, was severely hit. So at a point of time, the mutual fund market in India, that was on the verge of complete collapse, right? The mutual fund market. Then RBI stepped in, right? And RBI facilitated some sort of liquidity or the money supply in the system, so that not RBI directly provided that money, but RBI has created some instruments. Through that instruments, they can get the long-term funding in order to save what? Mutual fund industry in India. Otherwise, people have almost lost their faith in the mutual fund. Those advertisement you are seeing today, na, कि mutual fund sahi hai. Just ask those people who have lost their money in year 2008, 9, 10 and 11, right? Just ask them, they'll let you know what happened with them at that point of time. Means like people are having an asset value of 1 lakh rupees. In that phase, that become 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees. In that way, people lost their money, right? So people in this country, or the investor in this country, they are going to finally lose their hope in what? The mutual fund system. Then RBI came as a rescue, and RBI provides some desired liquidity in order to save. So the idea of being lender as of last resort means what? Lender of the last resort means it is going to provide necessary money supply when a system, this financial system, any part of this financial system are maybe going to collapse because of unavailability of what? Liquidity. Not particular, like suppose that a particular bank is sinking, right? Like Yes Bank. So Yes Bank was in crisis. So you can say that, sir, why RBI has not worked with what? Have been provided the liquidity to Yes Bank. RBI have not provided the liquidity to Yes Bank, or even any other bank is going to sink, RBI is not going to provide the liquidity. RBI is going to step in. For example, if private banks are going to, all the private banks are going to face some issues, or all public sector banks are going to face some issues, all cooperative banks are going to face some issue, NBFC sectors are going to face some issue, then in that case RBI will step in and perform the function of what? Lender of the last resort. In this way, RBI will go and save the particular section, right? Overall, I am going to provide the help. Though even in the case of Yes Bank, RBI have made it sure that the bank should not collapse. So they tried to protect the Yes Bank, but that was the function under what? Regulatory function of RBI. So RBI was doing all that regulatory function. RBI has not applied its power of what? Lender of the last resort. So lender of the last resort, basically a function which is going to be used when a particular pillar of financial system like bank or NBFCs or financial companies, mutual fund industry, right, insurance sector, they are going to on the verge of collapse because of the liquidity situation. Then RBI will step in and they will try to protect. Okay, I hope this point is clear. Lender of the last resort is clear. This point is clear. Tell me quickly so that we will move forward. Any doubt? Manisha, any doubt related to this point? Because you are asking many doubts. Acha, no doubt. Okay, fine. So now the other function we are going to discuss, that is the function of what? Bank to government. Right? Bank to whom? Bank to government. So bank to the government means what? Bank to government means all the accounts of Government of India and state governments, they are going to be managed by whom? They are going to be managed by Reserve Bank of India. Right. So Reserve Bank of India is going to manage all the account of government. Right. So all the transactions in the government account is done through with whom? Reserve Bank of India. Fine. So in RBI, all the state governments as well as central government, they have that account, and that account is going to facilitate like the salary disbursement and any payment have to be made by the Government of India. For example, Government of India took any loan from IMF or World Bank or any other country. So that loan took by the Government of India, and it is going to be, when the loan is disbursed, suppose that IMF is disbursing any loan. IMF and GOI, Government of India, they negotiated for some loan. Fine. They negotiate for some loan, and finally the loan is being sanctioned by the IMF to the Government of India. Then that money will be given to the Government of India, but it will be come to what? At RBI. So RBI is going to manage, and at the same time when the repayments are scheduled. So on the behalf of Government of India, these repayments are going to be done by whom? These repayments are also going to be done by whom? RBI. Right. Understood? Similarly, if government is going to borrow internally, if government, that is about external borrowings. Externally, you are borrowing from IMF or any other organization or any other country, you are borrowing, right? So that is going to be performed by RBI. Similarly, internal borrowings. Internal borrowings means what? If the Government of India is going to borrow inside the country. Okay, just for your basic understanding, suppose that if Government of India is going to borrow from SBI, just for your understanding, okay, the real scenario we will discuss in detail, but just for your understanding is, suppose Government of India is going to borrow from whom? SBI, then that money which is going to be taken by the Government of India from SBI, that will go to which account? Account maintained in the Reserve Bank of India, right? And after getting that loan, you have to go for the repayments. So that repayments will be also done by whom? RBI on the behalf of Government of India, right? So the internal borrowing as well as external borrowing of Government of India is going to be handled by whom? RBI. So RBI handles internal external borrowings, number one. RBI provide all these transactions, means when the payment is have to be received, payment have to be made. So making the payment, receiving the payments, getting the loans, repaying the loans, all these main activity under the government bank is going to be performed by whom? RBI. Okay. Achha. One contrasting difference. Government of India and state government. For both, RBI functions as what? RBI functions as a bank to the government, whether it is Government of India or it is state government, right? And I told you under this, debt management. Debt management. So for state government also, their debt management is going to be performed by whom? Their debt management is going to be managed by whom? RBI. Their debt is also going to be managed by RBI. Here I told you means both kind of the debt, internal as well as external. Fine. So internal debt and external debt both is going to be managed by whom? RBI, for the government of India. But in the case of state, only internal debt. Only internal debt. Why? Why not external debt? Because Constitution of India do not allow states to borrow directly from outside. They are not allowed. They are not allowed to borrow directly outside. Okay. However, the 12th Finance Commission, I will add this point in the notes. I told you yesterday also, I am telling you again, these are notes already in process, right? They are in process. So I will share with you once I am going to complete all these things. I will share with you. So no need to worry, means student get worried कि sir notes नहीं मिल रहा है. Why you are not providing the notes? So notes are in the process. So I will share with you at a point of time. Like once this bankers bank, I discuss the bankers bank. I discuss what I discuss another function. What was the function here? I have discussed bankers bank. Another was discussed like क्या था? भूल गया मैं. SDR also have been received through lender of the last resort. SDR also received through RBI. Obviously they have to be received through RBI only. So lender of the last resort, bankers bank I have discussed. This is the government, bank to the government I am discussing. Once this function will be over, I will share this PDF with you. Okay. So what I was telling you, the debt, right? The debt management. Under the bank to the government of India and state government, RBI have to manage and maintain government debt. And under that, they have to manage both internal as well as what? External debt. But in the case of what? But in the case of state governments. In the case of what? In the case of state government, only internal debt. Why? Constitution do not allow states to borrow from outside. However, the 12th Finance Commission, they recommended that state can borrow from outside, but with consent of whom? But with the consent of government of India. So that means like earlier you was not allowed to negotiate. You want some loan for the development, and for that you are not allowed. You are not allowed to negotiate. You have to knock the door of the government of India and say that, hey, I just want to get this loan from the World Bank. Please negotiate on my behalf. Please go and negotiate on my behalf. Right. Now the Finance Commission recommended that, okay, state can directly knock to the door of any development agency like Asian Development Bank, IMF, World Bank. They can knock their door and they can present their case that for this purpose we need an assistance, right? And especially soft loan. Soft loan means low interest rate, longer duration. So we need soft loans for this development project, and this is our case. Kindly provide this, right? So if they are going to okay, then they can present the case to whom? Government of India, and they can say that, see, we already negotiated, all these things already done, kindly approve it. So government can approve this thing. So it is going to be a bit easier for the states to get external assistance, whatever, wherever it is required, right? So this is the case after 12th Finance Commission. Before 12th Finance Commission, they are not allowed. They have to go with whom? Government of India only. Okay. Are state governments allowed to lend outside too? I see, they are not allowed first of all, and even they are allowed, they do not have this financial capacity to lend other countries or other organizations. First of all, they are not allowed, and even if they are allowed, their financial position is already very weak. They are always crying with the government of India to at least provide more financial autonomy to us. But as per records, as per the thing, they are not allowed for lending or even borrowing. Sir, can RBI borrow money from international organization like IMF? If yes, how is the repayment settled? Taking the fluctuations of exchange rate into account. First of all, RBI itself is not going to borrow, right? Without any reason. Definitely, they are going to have a discussion with the government. If something is required, they will have a discussion with the government and then they will go and negotiate. But they will negotiate on the terms and conditions with respect to whom? With respect to acceptable to the government of India. Because whatever the RBI is going to borrow, that is going to be considered as the borrowing by the government of India itself, right? So, because it's a government organization, no? So it will be considered as government of India borrowing. Means what? If RBI is saying that no, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay. They are going to do this with whom? IMF. We are not going to pay. So who is liable to pay? It's the government of India liable to pay. So we say that the sovereign guarantee is given by government of India if any government organization is going to borrow, right? So sovereign guarantee rests with whom? Government of India. So first of all, RBI arbitrarily not going to IMF for the borrowing purpose. Fine. Suppose that if they have borrowed, if they are going to borrow, so at the time of borrowing, there is always a negotiations. Ki there must be what? Ki this kind of the exchange rate we are going to accept. Fine. So suppose that ki we are going to return with the exchange rate which is right now. Fine. Otherwise, ki at that point of time when we are going to repay, whatever the exchange rate will be there, we are going to agree with that. Or na tera na mera. Right, whatever the exchange rate will be there, we will negotiate plus minus and then we will settle. So all these negotiations happen in terms of what? When we are going for repayment of the loan, especially if they are in the foreign currencies. So that is going to be discussed in the chapter of foreign exchange management. Under the balance of payment, we will discuss that thing. Ki what are the possible ways? But yes, one way is what? Ki on that point of time when we have to repay the loan, suppose we are taking loan right now in 2022 and we have to return after 10 years. So after 10 years at that spot, whatever the exchange rate will be there, we will repay in that way. Other way, ki whatever the exchange rate is today, we will repay with today's exchange rate system. The best way is what? Na tera na mera, ki at that point of time, we will check. We will check, suppose that right now it is 82 per dollar, 82 rupees per dollar. Fine. So after 10 years, it may be 100 or maybe 110 or maybe 60. So what we will do, whatever the exchange rate will be there, right? Whatever the exchange rate will be there, plus minus 10. So in that way, we will go for the negotiations. So in such way, the negotiations are going to happen and then they will settle that thing. Kerala is raising? I have a doubt. Kerala is not raising. Banks are raising. And if Kerala is raising, suppose Kerala is raising to the masala bond, then there is an organization, right, in the Kerala, whether it is the Kerala government or any Kerala based financial institution, they are going to borrow through masala bonds as per the limit set by the RBI with the permission of the RBI and the permission of Government of India. Without that, they are not allowed to borrow. It's not like that, okay, government is not looking, let's move it from here. It is not going to happen. Okay. Kerala or whatever, you are not able to do. You can do that thing with the consent of the government and the limit prescribed by the Reserve Bank of India. Okay. Any other question? Acha. So what I am going to do, I am going to wind up the session right now, because the thing which I am going to start discussing, ki how government borrow, right? How government borrow, what are the instruments for the borrowing, that is going to take another 30 to 45 minutes, right? So this is why I'm not going to start this thing today, right? I'll start on Monday. But my just small suggestion for all of you is ki, because in the next half an hour or maximum 45 minutes, half an hour, I am going to explain. After that, I'll start going for what? Monetary policy function. So my request is कि before going enter into the monetary policy function, all of you just try to get a first-hand reading, whatever the source, Wikipedia, Investopedia, Yepedia, Wopedia, right? Book, whatever source you are able to have, just read about the inflation. What is inflation? Types of inflation. Just have a reading. If you are not able to understand, no issues. I just want to be on board, right? Okay, you are having some idea about the term inflation. Then I'll explain the inflation, how it works and how it impacts, and that is why it is the system of monetary policy committee system is created, and inflation plays very important role in the money supply and each and everything I'm going to explain. Okay. See, learning is always a very enjoyable thing, right? If you are going to learn in the very systematic way, you can learn anything, right? It's never going to be difficult. There are a lot of example. I told you the example of Shaktikanta Das when he was doing his graduation in the history, right? The impossible kind of the thing, na ki history, RBI, history and RBI, right? To R means there is no connection with that, but ultimately he's the governor of RBI, right? Because he developed his interest over the year and he worked and enjoyed in the Ministry of Finance. Otherwise, if he was not able to enjoy his work in the Ministry of Finance, why he will be remain there? Or even he is remain there, but he is not enjoying his work, he is not enjoying his learning in the functioning of Ministry of Finance, then definitely he is not able to concentrate, and when he is not able to concentrate, he will be transferred to other department. But he was keep enjoying, keep learning day by day, day by day. So he was moving ladder up and up and up. Right. So always get motivated. Ki learning, you don't worry about anything. Ki I'm not able to understand. You can understand. But for understanding anything, you have to go step by step. Take your time, step by step. Fine. Then at a point of time, you are able to do all those things, whatever you want. Okay. So the class has become slow. Acha. Can you please try to extend the session of the class? No, that was deliberately so slow, because I do not want to, especially for today's session, I do not want to start that part, because if I am going to start today, at a point of time I have to stop it, and then in the next class I have to do it. And what is ultimately going to happen? I have to explain same thing again. So this is why after the half of the class the pace becomes slow, but from the next class onwards it will be you are not going to feel that thing. Okay. Acha, I am getting message from Ashok sir. There is another class, so I am winding up this session today. We'll discuss tomorrow or Monday, and we will do that thing. Okay. Okay, Darshan. Just give me quick reply, and I'm going to wind up this session. Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next class.